Hi everyone, my name is Tracy. I'm a writing specialist here at NLU, and I'm going to talk a little bit about literature reviews and how you can find sources and really begin this literature review process. So I'm going to start with sharing a quick PowerPoint that kind of goes over some of the steps in this literature review process. So I like to start with talking about what is a literature review. So a literature review analyzes information that is already published on a certain topic. So if you're researching something like, do video games shorten children's attention span? The literature and the articles that you pull up are already going to be published on that topic, and you're really going to be analyzing them and showing what they have to say about that topic and how they relate to your research question. And as a side note, I like to mention a literature review is not a book report. You're not just saying, I like this article because, or this is what this article talked about. You're not just summarizing it everything it said or doing an annotated bibliography. Instead of summarizing each source, you're really going to be discussing what it says about your topic and synthesizing it and showing how all those sources come together. So some quick do's and don'ts. So when you're writing a literature review, you want to find multiple sources for information. You don't want to just talk about one article or one book. You want to find lots of them. You want to analyze the information from each source. So you want to go through and really go through that information and see how those sources are connected and really analyze them instead of just saying this source said blah, 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 and summarizing everything it said. You really want to analyze what point is that article making and how does it relate to your research question. And you want to think about how each source is similar. How do they all connect and how do they connect to your certain topic? Some things to avoid are using only one source. So again, you want to use multiple sources for information. Again, you don't want to just summarize that information. You really want to analyze it and talk about what that information is saying and really get to how it relates to your research topic. And like I said before, you want to avoid writing a book report. You don't want to just say, I like this source because, or write something that's just summarizing the source. You really want to analyze that information. So some steps you can take during the literature review process are first framing your research question. So making sure you have a really good research question down pat before you begin anything else. Then you start looking for sources, and I'll show you a little bit more about how to find articles and use the library databases. The next step will be organizing your search results. So really going through all the articles you found and looking for how they connect. Then you're going to synthesize your information. So really go through it, really see what is important to take away from those articles and how they really back up and support your research question. And then you can finally write your literature review. So when framing your research question, you want to think about what are you trying to learn from each of the sources. You want to make sure your question is open-ended so you can find plenty of information, but you also don't want to be too specific. So for example, if your research question has to do with cognitive psychology, you don't want to just have your research question be, what is cognitive psychology? You want to look at something specific. So say you're looking at attention. Maybe you want to look at how do video games shorten the attention span in teenagers? That would be a good research question because it's specific. It gets down to an age group, which is teenagers. It looks at attention, so something specific within cognitive psychology. And it's also looking at something that's affecting attention, which in this case is video games. So that's what you want to do when you're framing your research question is make sure it's specific enough where you can find articles on it, but you don't want to make it so broad that you can't find any information on it. And maybe you just find one source and you can't really use it to support your idea. And something to have in mind is your topic might change when you're doing more research. So if you do a bunch of research, find a bunch of articles, and you want to reframe or change your question, that's okay. Your topic might change, and it might even change multiple times as you do research. So once you start looking for sources, you want to use the library databases, and I'm going to show you guys those in just a minute. On those databases, you can find books, journals, dissertations, and all this information is going to be peer reviewed. So someone's really looking over this information, making sure that it's accurate and it's information that you can trust and use in scholarly academic writing. And you want to start looking for common themes in those articles. So you don't want to find 5 articles that don't connect at all. You want to make sure that they're supporting your research question and that they're all connected. So I'm going to show you the library databases really quick here. So to get to the library databases, you can just go to nl.edu, click on Student Services and Library. And this is our library homepage here. So you're going to click on Find Articles. Once you're here, if you want to, you can narrow it down. So say you want to find articles on psychology and counseling or criminal justice or education, you can definitely narrow it down here. But for now, I'm just going to click See All Databases. And from here, these are all the library databases, so you can access information using any of these databases. Some common ones you'll see, I'm going to go to EBSCOhost. And again, you can narrow it down if you want to find specific psychology articles or something like that. A common one you might see is also ERIC, or in the J's, JSOURCE, another common one. But for now, let's just stick with EBSCOhost. So I'm going to click on this one where you can see all the EBSCOhost articles. And let's try that research question. So for that one, do video games shorten the attention span in teenagers? You want to be really specific and really careful about the words that you're searching, because sometimes changing just one word can change the number of articles that come up and if they're related to your topic. So let's try attention. And then the next word we'll search is video games and teenagers. And let's try searching it here. So all these articles come up, which is great. And you can access all of these through these NLU databases here. You just click on the PDF. Some of them you might see, you might have to ask a librarian to get access. So let's start with this one. Maybe it's it looks like this. It's got a PDF here. So let's click on this article. So something I tell students, especially when you're researching for a bigger project like a literature review, when you're looking for articles, start with maybe just reading the abstract. It's usually on the first page and it's just a paragraph long. And that'll give you an idea about what the article is about and if it has to do with your research question. And when you're trying to find, 10 different articles, that can really save you a lot of time. Instead of reading all 13 pages, you can maybe just start with reading this abstract and see if the article relates to your topic. So say you read through the abstract, you're looking at this article, it looks good, and you want to add it to your literature review. The other nice thing that you can do with the library databases here is cite your source. So if you click on this little yellow button here that says cite, and you go down to APA 7th, there's the citation for this article right here. So what I tell students is that it's great to use this as a tool, and it's really nice that it makes the citation there for you, but it's always good to know what goes into a citation too, because what if something's missing or what if something's in the wrong order? You want to be able to check that. So definitely use this as a tool, but make sure you're comfortable with citations and you know what goes into citations so that you can double check the information in here. So that's how you use EBSCOhost. And like I said, sometimes just changing one little word can change your entire search and the articles that come up. Another place you can go that I tell students about a lot is called Google Scholar. So that's this right here. And if you just click on Google Scholar, so let's try the research question again. So can video games shorten the attention span of teenagers? So again, all of these articles come up. If it says PDF here, you can access it. So let's try this one for an example. So say you're looking at this article, you read through the first couple paragraphs, it looks good, it looks like it's connected to your research question. You can click cite here and it makes that citation there again for you. So again, it's a great tool to use. Definitely use it, especially if it'll save you a lot of time, but also know what goes into citation so you can double check and make sure that that information is accurate. So then once you have all your sources, you can go back and start looking for common themes and seeing what those articles have in common. So you start to make a running list with your sources. So maybe you take those citations or the link you use to access it and make a list of all your sources to keep them organized and kind of start to find out what they have in common. Then you're going to synthesize your information. So synthesize means to combine, to bring that information together. So you want to look for what information in your sources can you bring together? How can you combine it? What does it have in common? So you want to include multiple sources that relate to one idea or topic. So sometimes people put just one paragraph about a certain topic, and then their next paragraph, they just use one source on a different topic. You want to try and weave 2 or 3 sources into each paragraph, sometimes more, sometimes less, but you really want to make sure that all your sources relate to your topic. You don't want to just have this one source talks about, so for example, let's do, will the video games shorten teenagers' attention spans? You don't want to just have one source talking about the attention span in teenagers, one source talking about video games, one source talking about, your actual research question, video games shortening attention span, one article about teenagers. You don't want your articles to be all over the place. You want to show how they're connected and how they can be woven together. And like I said before, you don't need a new paragraph for each of your sources. You really want to tie them all together and try and get at least 2 or 3 of your sources within that one paragraph. So to do that, you want to think about what common themes do they have? What do they have in that can bring them together? Is the information relevant? What information is not relevant? What information can you leave out? And how are you really going to organize your writing? So think about your research question and the different topics that have to do with that research question to figure out where you're going to tie in each of your sources. And so now you're ready to write your literature review. Remember to include those citations. You can use that cite tool in the databases, but just make sure you double check it. And you can have your reference page at the end. Don't forget to use in-text citations each time you use a new source. And if you use direct quotes or if you're paraphrasing, make sure you're citing all your information properly. And yeah, it's time to write your literature review. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Here's my email address and contact information. You can also talk to a librarian if you need any help with the literature review process or citing any of your articles. And then these are just some of the sources that I used in here. So I hope this information helps you with your literature review. Best of luck, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Thanks.